When this tag first came out is when I was fighting my horrible sinus infection, and so I decided I didn't want to be messing with that then and try to get well. So I'm well-ish enough to do this. So number one, how does your school deal with misbehavior? Well, I teach in a K through 2, well, pre-K through 2 building. So our misbehaviors are generally minor. We don't generally have fist fights or knock down, drag out things or lots of major issues. But the classroom teacher, for the most part, tries to handle most behavior issues. We are a PBS school, positive behavior support school. And so we go through the steps of, it's called the matrix. I don't have it with me, but there's a little cheat sheet card flippy thingy that you can, my cats are being crazy. There's a little card flipping thing that you can go through with students to kind of, what do they call it? To kind of debrief with them, sort of, to go through their behavior choices and kind of talk through why they made that choice and why that wasn't the best choice and what the next step should be. And if this situation were to occur again, what would you choose next time that would be a better choice? So a lot of kind of self-reflection is involved in our behavior management. Even at the age of 5, a student can sit and go, oh, yeah, hitting my friend across the head probably wasn't a great idea. Even if for the simple fact that it got them in trouble. They may not understand socially it's not okay to just whack somebody upside the head, but they know that they don't want to be in trouble again, so they want to figure out how not to do that again. So the classroom teacher takes care of whatever misbehaviors generally. We have what's called a major and a minor report form. If it's something major, I mean, the things are listed, what constitutes a minor behavior issue and what constitutes a major. We decided as a school that 3 minors, 3 of the same minors, like if it becomes a chronic behavior, then that constitutes a major. So 3 minor offenses of the same offense turns into 1 major, and any major automatically goes to the office. That's an office referral automatically. You fill out the paperwork. Now we do it online on Google stuff because everything's Google. So we send that on electronically, and then either the assistant principal or the principal will find a time to meet with that student and discuss their consequences and yada yada. Sometimes it's a phone call home to parents, depending on what the situation is. If it's a bus issue, then they contact the bus driver. They can look at the footage from the video feed of the bus. Just depends on the situation. Generally, the things that happen in my classroom with 6 and 7-year-olds in first grade are not keeping your hands to yourself, hurting each other, whether intentionally or not, lashing out in anger with words and actions. Those are the things I deal with on a daily basis. I don't involve anyone else in my management of behaviors unless it becomes chronic and what I'm doing isn't stopping it. So sometimes I'll go to a colleague and say, hey, this friend, they need to come stay with you for a while because they're not making good choices and we can't learn with what they're doing in the classroom. They're stopping our learning. So they'll go to a buddy room, and that's just one of the rooms really nearby you, and they will do their work in there, or they will fill out a think sheet in there, which it outlines their behavior, what they did, what they should have done, what they're going to do next time. It goes home, mom and dad see it, it comes back signed, I file it in my file. And then you know if it becomes a chronic thing, because you might look back and go, didn't they do that before? But you don't really know because honestly, there are lots of things to keep track of as a teacher, and that's one of the things that doesn't always stick in your mind unless it's a huge thing. I have had students in the past that have stolen, and it's gotten to the point where we had to involve the police. We do have a great relationship with our police station, which is just up the block from our school. So we have a police presence every day outside the building directing traffic. We also have them walk the building sometimes and just say hello to the students. We don't want them to be frightened by police, but we do want them to have a healthy respect for them and also know they can go to them if they need help. So the police officers are wonderful in our district and they help as much as they can. They love to come talk to the kids, but they can also come kind of be a little scary, kind of scared straight type thing. And they have had to come and kind of give some tough love to some kids that just aren't getting it any other way. And to explain to them, look, friend, we don't want you to be in our juvenile system in 10 years or in 6 years or whatever. We don't want you to be in our penal system in 15 years. We want to stop whatever's causing this behavior now and get you to understand that what you're doing is not okay. We want to get you off this path. So that's just for severe things. But in general, like I said, we just take care of it in our classrooms. They get like kind of a timeout. I call it thinking time. They need thinking time to reevaluate their choices. So sometimes thinking time could be just moved away from the other students in the classroom in a quiet corner. Sometimes thinking time can just be right outside our classroom door, just right out there where I can still see them and hear them. So I know they're safe, but they can still hear what's going on in their classroom and not lose all of the learning time, but they're safely away from other students. They can make better choices. Sometimes it's in another teacher's classroom and I send the work with them. Sometimes it's a one-on-one conference with me during their recess time, and then they have to practice the desired behavior so they can learn to do that behavior rather than the behavior that got them in trouble. If it's something severe, they go to the office and there's a phone call to parents, but that's about the gist of it. Let's see what the next question is. Okay, number 2, what are consequences for misbehavior? I already answered that apparently. Number 3, can students be expelled from school? If so, what steps will take place to prevent that? I don't personally know of any situation in my building where a student has been expelled from school. Even severe behavior issues, throwing chairs, hitting teachers, hitting other students, which just appalled me, they seem to still not get expelled from our building. Now in the high school and middle school, that's a different situation. Yeah, they get expelled from those schools. And sometimes it's temporary and sometimes it's permanent, and they're put on the alternative school list or they're homeschooled. It's not, okay, I don't want to say homeschooling like the parents school them. No, they have homebound schooling is what it's called, I guess, where an actual teacher or some staff member from our school district will go into that student's home and tutor them. So they're not missing their credits and they can still graduate and stuff like that. Our alternative school is in a different building, and it's kind of for people that can't handle regular school and they've had issues and can't really get along with other students and don't get the work done or are constantly in trouble, whatever, and they still can get their schooling. Number 4, consequences, detention, in-school or out-of-school suspension, skipping specials, recess. Well, I kind of went into that a little bit in my big long spiel at the beginning. As teachers, we can choose to take away recess time. I don't take away an entire recess time because I feel like students and teachers need that time, because our teachers in our building do not have recess duty. We have a recess supervisor that is on the playground the whole time. So we send our students out to recess, like we walk them to recess, and then we go back and pick them up from recess, just like we do from lunch and specials, which is wonderful. My other district, teachers did have recess duty. And it wasn't terrible to have recess duty, except, when it was rainy and cold and gross, and we still had to go outside, which didn't make sense to me, but whatever. It's nice to not have recess duty because you have that extra 20 minutes or whatever to do other things like go to the bathroom and make a couple copies and breathe. That's nice. But yeah, students can miss recess. Students can have a parent phone call, and sometimes, you have the student call the parent and say, hey, tell mom why you're in trouble. Tell her what kind of happened in your classroom and what you did and what we're going to do about it. And that sometimes it doesn't make an impact because the kids just really don't care. But most of the time in my building, since we have 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds in our building, telling the student that they're going to call mom at work and explain to her why they're bothering them at work and what they did that got them in so much trouble they couldn't be in their classroom anymore and had to make a phone call, kind of makes an impact with most kids. They don't really want to do it. So that's a deterrent. We don't have them skip specials generally unless the principal or the assistant principal just has to pull them out of that to talk to them, because that's the only time they have. But we don't make a point of taking away their specials time. Mostly we try to do things during their recess time, because even during specials time, it's still a learning activity. It's not just free play. So with me, when I take away recess minutes, it's to practice a behavior that they're not performing correctly, such as walking quietly in the hallway, or I don't know what else, sitting quietly when we have a discussion. I'll just have them go through the motions and show me physically what they're going to do next time. Not just tell me. I want them to tell me and then show me how they're going to do it. I'll have them do that a couple times. Or if they're having trouble walking in the hallway, if they're constantly running. I have a few students who are just all day today especially, were just running everywhere they went. And I said, friend, come back. Please show me how you can walk this time. And so I make them come all the way back, and then they have to walk all the way to the spot they came from, which you would think would get so tiring and annoying as a child that you wouldn't want to do it anymore. But it just doesn't seem to matter sometimes because they just are so impulsive. But yeah, I only do recess time for that. Or for them to finish work that they did not finish because they were playing during work time. And I've told them at the beginning of the school year, recess time is your play time. In the classroom is your work time. But if you choose to use your work time for playtime, then you're choosing to use your playtime for work time. So it's a trade-off. You know, they made their choices. You know, this is your work time, but if you're not going to work during work time, then you can work during your playtime because you didn't make good choices during your work time. So that's usually a pretty big deterrent. In our building, I don't think we've ever done out-of-school suspension. They do at the high school, and I think at the middle school, but for sure at the high school. My daughter's a high schooler, so I know more about the high school from what she's told me. And they have detentions and things. Let's see, number 5. What is the responsibility of the teacher in the classroom community? Well, I kind of went through like the discipline things. Like we're responsible for teaching character traits and just, you know, enforcing the school rules because we have, with our positive behavior support, we have school-wide rules for every situation. So theoretically, every place a student goes within our school, they'll be told the same thing because we have the same expectations in every area of the building. Short, straight, silent lines. You know, we shouldn't be talking in the hallway. We always walk where we're going. Things like that. You know, just general things that everyone knows that they're supposed to do. I have never been outright told, you need to take care of your problems in your classroom. That's just the way I am as a teacher. I feel like that's your job. These are your students, and they are your responsibility. And I very rarely send a student out of my classroom. I very, very rarely send a student to the office. Generally, I've only sent students to the office for major, major, major things, like they have hurt another child, you know, enough to leave a mark or something, and it wasn't an accident. It was just malicious. They have been a chronic liar or a chronic thief. That becomes a major issue, and I send them to the office. But for just normal, everyday things, I take care of it in my classroom, and it's generally not a problem. What is the responsibility of the student in the classroom community? Well, they're expected to follow the classroom rules, the agreed upon classroom rules, and the school-wide rules. They're expected to follow them, and I let them know the expectations for the building and the expectations for our classroom from day one, and I never waver from that. There's never a time where I've said, well, today's different. Nope. If anything, you'll hear me say, I know it's Halloween, but we still have rules. Things like that. Because you can't give them any leeway. That's probably true of all ages, but especially the little ones, because they're always trying to test you anyway. Like, maybe today she'll let me do it. Maybe today. I mean, because they just keep picking at you. But you just need to tell them from the get-go, this is how it is. This is what I expect from you. This is what you're going to do. That's the end. No ifs, ands, buts. Oh, it's my birthday. Oh, my grandma's here. It doesn't matter why. There is no reason for you to not behave. And so that's how I run my ship. Number 7, tips and strategies for classroom management. Just be consistent and really think through what's important to you as a teacher. Like what behavior is okay to see all the time for you? And like if you don't mind them chatting, okay. But if you don't want chatting, don't ever let it start. Because they will run with it and you will never get them back. It's like a team of wild horses. They just take off. and you're that lone person trying to pull on the reins and there's 20 horses pulling you down the road and you cannot stop them. You're all going to go over the cliff together and die. So don't let anything start that you do not want to happen. Be very firm but loving. Be very consistent every single time. Have the same expectation. Don't be like, well, it's Halloween. You can act like crazy people. Nope. Don't let them do it ever. If you don't want to deal with it, if you never want to see that behavior, don't allow it. That's my biggest advice. I guess I would consider myself lovingly strict. I don't think it's fair to assume that the students know how to behave. You need to explicitly teach your expectations from the beginning and then reinforce those expectations throughout the year. Because I'm thinking even older students might slack off a little bit and just be like, you don't have to do that now because we're all comfortable with each other and stuff. Don't let anything get started that you don't want to happen. That's my biggest advice to everybody. All right, this was awesome. It's fun to participate in a tag. I love to hear other people's answers, and I like to see and hear how things are similar and different in other places in the country and other places in the world. I mean, where else are you going to get this awesome diversity than on YouTube? It's so cool. So I'm really glad I could participate in this, and I'm glad that you are out there enjoying it with me. I'll see you next time.